this unusual oak tree, this place of high earth energy, this geomantic hotspot is very special, and I want to present it to you. It's been an earth chakra since thousands of years. You know, in the Neolithic time, in the Younger Stone Age, for humanity, nature was sacred, the landscape was sacred. And they would mark places in the landscape, and their spiritual life was unfolding, communicating with certain peaks, mountains, with certain valleys, with certain hotspots in the landscape. Partly also with solstices and equinoxes on certain points and so forth. And this is one of these earth chakras, collecting, connecting the peaks of this area. We are in the Jurassic area, in Jura of Switzerland. And it acquired a totally new meaning in the beginning of the last century, when Rudolf Steiner decided to build right in this landscape here a building that was meant to be a theater for mystery dramas, a place for concerts, for lectures, for spiritual research, spiritual scientific research, eurythmy, and so forth. And he redesigned this place, maintaining, keeping the earth energy, this upwell of life forces and spiritual forces from below the earth, holding it together as a spiritual fountain, so to say. You know, just like in many places, fountains, an upwell that comes is being kept with stone circles, so to give it a worthy framework. That's what Steiner did here. He made this plateau on the exact level of this rock, and he built these steps around. They're actually built in a very dynamic way. They're not just concentric, but they are like a spiral, developing from one point, growing, and then being recollected back into the center of this plateau. And you see here it is 7 steps. And the energy of this place, when it is being collected, is being radiated out towards the building that is, say, 100 meters or so away from here. So this is also a monument of cooperation between nature spirits, allowing, nurturing, inspiring human culture, the works of arts that are being performed, and also the meditative work being performed in this building, which later then was called the Goetheanum, the center of the anthroposophical movement in the world. What does that have to do with the flower essences of the mistletoe? Well, this place had been my personal point of retreat for many years while the first generation of the mistletoe flower essences was developing. Even though I never made essences on here until the year 2020. But that's a different story. We come back to that. However, there's a certain resonance of this landscape architecture structure. These 7 steps, they have the qualities of the 7 planets. And so you can walk step by step. It's actually inviting through these steps here to go this meditatively, and you go the same developmental sequence as you do when you go in meditation. Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun in the middle, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and then beyond Saturn you enter the zodiac. You go the same sequence when you consciously, half-consciously, not consciously, depending how much we have prepared that path, after death, go through the planetary spheres. So this is part of a human archetype of development going through these steps. So here we have something in space that actually is a development in time. So it's really a help for meditation and development of consciousness. And that is directly manifested in the biographical essences. Let me shortly explain to you. From 2000 until 2003, we were preparing essences on dozens of different trees of all sorts, species, sorts, and localities. And we were discovering very soon that each tree had different qualities. It's not like you make a flower essences of the wild rose and then you have the quality of the wild rose. The mistletoe is different. It is so finely tuned to the quality of the tree, and moreover to the quality of the place, to the energy of a specific place on earth, that it takes all these qualities in the essence. So each mistletoe essence is actually unique. And by 2003, we discovered that this whole array of essences which we had by then, it was more than 80 already on mostly in this landscape here, the valley of the Eremitage, the Grail Valley, but also places in Italy like Assisi, in France, in Germany. All these qualities were arranging themselves according to the archetype of human biography. It was an intuition, it was a surprise, but it just became clear to us that that was the key. So all these many fine-tuned qualities of the different mistletoe essences, mistle tree essences, were aligning themselves as if they were highlighting the steps of the development of the human soul from birth through childhood, puberty, becoming grown up, and through all phases of life until we leave our body again. That was 2003. And only in 2004, and I might say, looking back in retrospect, that this structure here was maybe giving us the inspiration, we made this step, so to say, crossing the threshold into the planetary spheres. In 2004, in the 7 days of the week before Easter, 7 planetary essences were born. Every day of the week is named after one planet, like the moon day, the Mondays, the sun, the Sunday, and so forth. So the planets are actually, and not by accident, it's very consciously coming out of a mystery background, the planets are actually behind the quality of each of the days. So vice versa, through the qualities of the days, we could enter the quality of the planet. And that Holy Week before Easter is actually that special week in the whole year that is a window to the pure quality of the planets, more than any other week in the year. So then we had, so to say, 7 essences going upward, these 7 steps, arriving on this plateau, arriving in the zodiac, in the world of the stars. That's what our soul does after death. And that's also what our soul does every evening when we fall asleep and gradually go into the world of the stars. And 7 steps back from the stars, going downward from Saturn all the way to the moon, and then waking up again into our body when we are back in the morning in our bed, or when we're back in a womb of a mother at the beginning of an earthly life. So in this sense, this beautiful landscape architecture creation is a symbol and is in resonance with this basic pattern of the biographical essences containing all steps in life, all steps of our cosmic biography, from pre-birth through the whole of life till after death, and totally into the cosmos, back into our spiritual home. And only with that key, which we arrived at in 2004, we could then really start doing biographical healing work with the flower essences, because we need that cosmic dimension in order to really have deep transformation in our lives. So with that spiritual background, in 2004 we could start really what we might call biographical healing with mistletoe flower essences. Now we have the whole archetype of the human life, from birth to death and beyond, and the spiritual center is always present, even when we are totally into the nitty-gritty of everyday life. There's some resonance of eternity there, our eternal spiritual self, who is always with us, but does not really totally enter into our body, but is kind of beside us. And the mistletoe flower essences help us to reconnect to this inner knowing, who is fully responsible and fully knowledgeable of our adventure of our human life. That is why the mistletoe essences can help us understand and transform our human experience.